In the heart of Europe, Hungary stands at a pivotal moment in its history, where the choices made today will echo for generations to come. Hungary is making bold moves that are shaking the continent, sending ripples through both its neighbors and the wider world. After 2 decades in the EU, Prime Minister Viktor Orban's government is pivoting eastward, toward China and the BRICS bloc. This new direction is not just about trade or diplomacy, but about redefining Hungary's place on the world stage. This isn't just a policy tweak, it's a fundamental shift in Hungary's global identity, signaling a willingness to challenge the status quo and seek new alliances. Hungary's leaders see a multipolar world emerging and believe survival means building bridges everywhere, forging relationships that span continents and ideologies. Their eastern opening is about securing Hungary's future as new powers rise, investing in infrastructure, technology, and economic ties that could reshape the nation's prospects. But this move challenges the EU's unity, raising tough questions about shared values, coordinated action, and the very meaning of European solidarity in a changing world. For Hungarians and Europeans alike, these choices impact jobs, security, and the continent's ability to respond to crises, from economic shocks to geopolitical threats. Hungary's journey is a case study in the struggle between old alliances and new opportunities, a nation weighing its past against the promise of a different future and asking what it truly means to belong in a rapidly shifting world. Hungary stands at a unique crossroads, operating in 3 major arenas that shape its destiny: the European Union, China, and the BRICS alliance. Each of these spheres offers Hungary distinct opportunities, but also presents its own set of challenges and dilemmas. China, a rising global power, and BRICS, a coalition of emerging economies, are both increasingly important to Hungary's foreign policy calculations. The EU remains Hungary's largest economic partner, providing access to a vast, single market and billions in development funds. This relationship has fueled Hungary's modernization and growth since joining in 2004. But the EU also expects its members to adhere to shared democratic values and policies, often pushing for political alignment on issues ranging from rule of law to migration. In recent years, tensions have escalated as Budapest pushes back against what it perceives as Brussels' interference in its domestic affairs. Disputes over judicial reforms, media freedom, and minority rights have put Hungary at odds with EU institutions, fueling debates about sovereignty and national identity. Meanwhile, China has emerged as a pragmatic and increasingly influential partner. Through its Belt and Road Initiative, China has invested heavily in Hungarian infrastructure, from railways to technology parks, with far fewer political conditions attached. Hungary's Eastern opening policy is designed to diversify its economic ties, positioning the country as a key European gateway for Chinese trade and investment. This strategy aims to reduce dependence on the West and tap into new sources of growth and innovation. Then there's BRICS, a bloc of emerging economies that now includes Saudi Arabia and Egypt, expanding its global influence. While Hungary is not yet a member, its growing interest in BRICS signals a desire to engage with a multipolar world order. By exploring closer ties with BRICS, Hungary is signaling its intent to play a more independent role on the world stage, seeking alternatives to the traditional dominance of Western alliances. Each arena offers Hungary a different set of benefits and risks: stability and funding from the EU, economic dynamism and investment from China, and the promise of a seat at the table in a new global order through BRICS. But these relationships are not without complications. Aligning too closely with one partner could jeopardize ties with the others, making Hungary's foreign policy a delicate balancing act. Navigating these competing interests requires constant adjustment and strategic flexibility. Hungary must weigh the immediate benefits of investment and influence against the long-term risks of alienating key allies. In this high-wire act, Hungary's leaders are making choices that will determine not only the country's economic growth and political autonomy, but also its standing in a rapidly changing world. As global power dynamics shift, Hungary's ability to adapt and balance these relationships will be crucial for its future. The outcome of Hungary's choices will not only shape its own path, but could also influence the direction of Europe as a whole in the years to come. Hungary's stance on Ukraine is a major source of friction with the EU. While most EU members back Ukraine, Hungary has opposed sending weapons and criticized sanctions on Russia, arguing they hurt Europe more than Moscow. Budapest has slowed Ukraine's EU accession, citing corruption and the rights of ethnic Hungarians in Ukraine. This position angers many EU partners, especially those bordering Russia, who see it as a betrayal of European solidarity. Hungary frames its stance as defending national interests and avoiding deeper conflict with Russia, its key energy supplier. But this approach has isolated Hungary within the EU, raising questions about its commitment to collective European security. Hungary's economic model is a balancing act between East and West. Chinese investment is pouring into electric vehicle and battery factories, making Hungary a key player in next-gen tech. At the same time, German giants like Audi and BMW, and companies like Lego continue to expand their Hungarian operations. The government touts this as the best of both worlds, Chinese capital and Western stability. This dual-track strategy gives Hungary leverage, but it's risky. Welcoming Chinese manufacturing could threaten local and regional competitiveness. A major EU-China trade dispute or a Western pullout could unravel Hungary's carefully built economic model. The country's prosperity now depends on maintaining this fragile equilibrium. In 2025, Hungary passed the Sovereignty Protection Law, creating a powerful authority to investigate groups with foreign funding. The government claims it's defending national decision-making from outside influence, especially from Brussels and international NGOs. Critics, including the EU, warn the law could stifle dissent and undermine democracy. For Orban's government, it's a declaration of independence from transnational pressures. For opponents, it's a tool to silence critics and consolidate power. BRICS, now expanded to include countries like Saudi Arabia and Egypt, is a bloc of emerging economies challenging Western dominance. It's not a military alliance, but a forum for economic cooperation and new financial institutions. BRICS members increasingly trade in local currencies, reducing reliance on the US dollar. Hungary's interest in BRICS fits its Eastern opening strategy, seeking growth and investment from rising powers. If Hungary joins, it would be the first EU member in BRICS, a move sure to strain relations with Brussels and NATO. The question, can Hungary belong to both camps, or will it be forced to choose? The answer could redefine its alliances for decades. Hungary's foreign policy is defined by pragmatism, not ideology. Rather than following a rigid set of beliefs or aligning itself strictly with one bloc, Hungary adapts to the shifting realities of global politics. Its leaders make decisions based on what benefits the country most at any given moment, even if that means changing course quickly. One day, it might veto EU policies or roll out the red carpet for Chinese investment, signaling a willingness to challenge Brussels and embrace opportunities from the East. The next, it could just as easily join a major EU defense initiative, if the terms are right and the benefits clear, showing a readiness to cooperate when it suits national interests. This unpredictability often frustrates Hungary's European partners, who struggle to anticipate its next move. Yet, for Hungary, this approach maximizes its autonomy and keeps its options open. The government skillfully keeps doors open to both East and West, leveraging relationships with global powers and using one side as a counterbalance to the other. While political rhetoric often targets Brussels and criticizes EU policies, Hungary's economy remains deeply intertwined with Western Europe, relying on trade, investment, and jobs from the region. This flexibility is all about leverage, avoiding dependence on any single power, and ensuring Hungary can pivot as global alliances shift. When criticized by the EU for its policies, Hungary points to growing Chinese investment and new economic partnerships as proof of its global relevance. But when it needs EU funds or support, it's quick to cooperate and show unity with Brussels, demonstrating a pragmatic willingness to compromise. It's a delicate dance, balancing between East and West, old alliances and new opportunities. So far, this strategy has kept Hungary at the center of competing interests, allowing it to punch above its weight on the international stage. Hungary's eastward pivot will keep testing its EU relationships. As Budapest deepens ties with China and BRICS, more clashes with Brussels are inevitable. The EU faces a dilemma: how to handle a member whose foreign policy diverges from the consensus. Hungary's model could inspire other states. risking fragmentation of EU unity. The balancing act brings opportunity, but also danger. Over-reliance on China or Russia could backfire. Hungary's story mirrors a global shift to multipolarity, forcing nations to rethink alliances. Orbán's gamble: be a sovereign bridge builder, even if it strains old friendships. Whether this leads to prosperity or isolation remains to be seen.